I really wanted to do Idomeneo. I think it's a fantastic opera, a little bit hard to do. The parts are all very demanding, but it's an important and big opera. Macbeth of Verdi is obviously an important and big opera. And we've been preparing through concerts and through other repertoire to do one of Rossini's serious operas for a long time. So I guess I was thinking, right, we're going to do a season of 3 Titan operas.
Well, we're really hoping to, give a faithful rendition of the story that is, I hope, as compelling to those that aren't at all familiar with it as it might be for those that have seen either this opera or this play many times before. But really the kind of central focus of our production is division and the idea that we do live in very divided time where politics, religion, ideology are in ferment as they never have been before, certainly in my lifetime. And what I think this extraordinary story so explores is the idea of what it means for a nation to be divided, for a household to be divided, for families to be divided.
The singing is very virtuosic, and especially the role of Macbeth is it's a very huge role, very challenging, and the character, of course, is very complex. The role of Lady Macbeth, she in a way is far less complex. She's very ambitious, she is very manipulative, and she certainly has her husband under her thumb, but she does have weaknesses, so I do get to play a palette of different emotions, which is wonderful.
Things to look out for in this opera are so many. I think the witches scenes are particularly amazing, whereas as opposed to having just 3 witches in the play, we have the full ladies chorus, and they are very dominant, very present in this production particularly, and musically they're thrilling scenes. We've got we're throwing everything at it in terms of the orchestra. There's wonderful percussion, thunder and lightning, and lots of sort of supernatural, occultish sort of musical gestures, and that's very exciting.
Oh, there are so many great parts in the opera from Macbeth. Just from my point of view, one of the great things about every time he comes on stage, he's a different character than when he leaves, because something happens to him, something amazing happens. So he may start full of joy and then go off kind of a quivering mess because he's seen a ghost.
Our staging is a dystopian world. It's a world that is, loosely inspired by Aldous Huxley and George Orwell and many of the great dystopian writers, but it's also a world that really actually should feel familiar to those, that are watching it, simply because the imagery that has inspired us has been comparable to the kind of imagery that you might see daily in your newspapers or on television, in that we're trying to tell the story of what it means for a nation to be in conflict.
Idomeneo is an opera on an epic scale. It's a large scale. There's the most fantastic choruses, the most fantastic ensembles. There's more chorus in this opera, I think, than in any other Mozart opera. So you're having a wonderful contrast between arias. Aria obviously is for one person. We have duet, we have a trio or quartet, and we have choruses, sometimes interspersed with arias. So he's playing with lots of different forms, lots of variety, to make the most colourful picture he possibly can, to give you an extraordinary palette of emotions.
I think what we find in Idomeneo is really perfectly shaped dramatic arias, making the bigger shapes in 3 acts to tell a compelling story. His operas didn't get better. They were different, but none of them better. And there are some tunes in this opera that are simply unforgettable. Idomeneo is Mozart's, it's not his first opera, but it's what I would call his first mature opera. They might think, oh, well, let's go to, The Marriage of Figaro or Don Giovanni or one of the other operas with Da Ponte, or I would prefer that because maybe this isn't ready yet. The thing is, Idomeneo is absolutely ready. His operas were, afterwards, some of them were different, but not one was better. But what I have to say is what will move you most in Idomeneo musically are the ensembles, the unforgettable duet, trio, and quartet.
It's a very difficult character to like, actually. He's a troubled man. He's been at war for many, many years and comes back and tries many, many ways to get around the gods, but unfortunately it doesn't work. Unfortunately, the gods know his every move and they make him come unstuck at every turn.
Elizabeth, or Elisabetta, we are singing it in Italian, but I want people to know it's about Elizabeth Tudor, Elizabeth I, Queen of England. With this one, I mean, each scene is like a vice getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So the singers have to be people who are extremely vocally flexible and beautiful. They can spin a beautiful line with some power, but also they have to be tough and tough-minded actors.
We know that this is the 200th anniversary of its London premiere. It's a fantastic work. It's from the same period as Barbara of Seville and Cenerentola, so it's got all of that fantastic fizzy melodic invention, but this time we've got a really serious plot, a dark historical tale of executed queens, of spurned lovers, of political decisions in really difficult circumstances. We've got a cast of 4 really potentially tragic figures battling out in the wake of war, and so all of that wonderful musical invention that we know Rossini's capable of this time is applied to a really serious story.
It's a mystery to me why Elisabetta is not more often performed. It's perfectly shaped. I think this will be staged more and more, and certainly, you know, in England, although it's not entirely accurate English history, it is a kind of English history. It should be played more often.
The 2 children's operas this season are called Paradise Planet, which is by Hanbury and Groves, and Waxwings, which is our opera for young people with special educational needs, and that's by Tim Yeeland and Woo Music, who are Mark and Charles Ives. Now, the difference between them, Paradise Planet is for children between 7 and 11 years old, and it's about the ocean. So it's about the animals that live in the ocean and the people that live on the ocean. But it's also about climate change. So we're trying to go into schools and inspire children to make a change for the future, because I think it's really interesting that we can get this idea of climate change to them through opera in a fun, interactive way. Waxwings is our opera for young people with special educational needs, and this is a lovely story about a boy and his sister, a boy and a girl, and they love birds, and they find this little waxwing who is injured, and they take it to school and they try and save it, but they have a head teacher who hates birds and turns out to be a bit of a minotaur, so then they have to try and escape. English touring opera does a huge amount of education and community and outreach work. We think it's really, really important that people of all age feel welcomed into the opera community. So we do operas like Paradise Planet and like Waxwings that we take into schools, but also we take them to theatres and to libraries. But on top of that, we do some workshops in high schools. This season we're going to take some workshops about Macbeth into schools, and the children are also going to come and see Macbeth in the theatres.
If you like singing, I mean, people spend Saturday evenings watching, you know, these Britain's Got Talent, The Voice things. You know, actually, if you want to hear really fantastic singing, what you have to do is come to an opera, come to a live opera, and hear amazing singing. And you really will hear that, because the singers have to be incredibly virtuosic and incredibly expressive. It's a wonderful thing to do on your evening off.